Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Monday, October 28th, 2024. And today's Yggdrasil deck card by Hakur Halderson is Modgud, the Guardian of Galabru. And Galabru, which sounds like something out of Doctor Who, Galabray, right? Galabru is the bridge of life and death in the Norse pantheon. This one I had to look up and read the little one-page entry in the book. Modgud, the guardian of the bridge of life and death. And today we have Conan 260, which wraps up the Shumagorth storyline. This is a good cover. This is Conan chasing down Vomitar and Kulan Gath. This is Roy Thomas writing, Mike Doherty drawing, Ricardo Villagrand on inks, and Nel Yamatov on colors. And I should, I suppose, finally read and tell you guys the letterer's name, if I know everyone else at this point. John Costanza doing the lettering. I shouldn't give them short shrift. So I do want to talk about this story. So Conan, as much as Conan hates magic, his books are about magic. As much as this is a sword book, it is also a sorcery book. It's also a horror book in how many dead things Conan has to fight. But that's really magic. That's necromancy. That's magic at its greatest form. It's a lot more, it takes a lot more energy to bring something back from the dead than to get someone to fall for you or to make some money, I would think. Seems like a greater expansion of energy on the part of the universe. And this wraps up, what is this, a 6 or 8 issue storyline now? So here we have Conan and his crew chasing Vomitar, and they're all facing Shumagorth. Conan and his guys, Conan, Hob, Kulan Gath, Vomitar. Shumagorth is basically on top of the mountain. Shumagorth has the high ground, and they have to figure out how to beat it. Hob's not up here right now. This is Conan and Ron Nal's daughter, the hot Viking girl, basically Lagatha from Vikings. She's the chief's daughter, and she's badass. And they are fighting. Conan wants to kill Vomitar and Kulan Gath, but mostly Vomitar. But Kulan Gath has joined forces with Vomitar, and they are going to try and control Shumagorth. And they have just right here on this page pledged not to betray each other. And then Conan shows up and says, Kulan Gath, I'm going to kill Vomitar as we have, as you have basically employed me to do. My vow. I will keep my vow to you and kill Vomitar. And of course, Kulan Gath blows Conan and Ron off the... Conan, Ron, and Sean is Liam's son. Blows them off the mountain with some magical energy strike. He and Vomitar together. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. He and Vomitar together hit Conan and his crew with a magical energy strike like Doctor Strange. Oh, it's this one page only. And yeah, so they're falling and Conan manages to catch Ron, and Ron has caught Sean. So the three of them are hanging from the mountainside like a human chain, and Conan's talking about he can't hang on, and Sean's talking about he can't hang on, and Ron is the only one not complaining. The girl in the middle between these two men is the only one not complaining. They should have had the boy be holding her, and she's so much bigger than him, but then that would put, Conan at the end of the chain, and that's not as cool. So Conan hauls them up, and Hob hauls Conan up. So Hob is there. Hob had fallen down the mountain and then released Shumagorth. It's a lucky thing they fell into the same cave Hob fell into that also happened to have the books, isn't it? And you'd wonder why in a decade no one had come back to this place. But so it goes. Let me get my finger out of Hob's eye. You guys can basically see what's happening. The dialogue is great, and I am doing this a disservice, but I'm not reading it, so I'm not really copyright striking it. I'm not spoiling it. There's still something to be learned by reading this yourself. Shumagorth is attacking Vamatar, and Kulan Gath have to face it by themselves, while Conan, Ron, Sean, and Hob explains to them how he accidentally released the thing, and it's not his fault, and maybe they can use these books to get rid of it again. It's not even on this page. We didn't even get to that. This is just them. This is just Kulan Gath and Vamatar. And so they begin their chance to control Shumagorth, and Shumagorth starts laughing at them. This is kind of an interesting bit. They thought that they had frozen. They do some chants and believe that they have frozen Shumagorth, but Shumagorth is just watching them, sort of waiting, just toying with them. And then Shumagorth starts talking in this big red fat letters and explains that they have no power over him, and he was toying with them, and he is now going to rule this world now that he's been released. And he blasts them with magical power, which is pretty insane. And he doesn't kill them, though, which is also interesting. Conan and his crew, we have a double-page ad. This is the backstory, which, is it Hob who remembers this when he uses the books or something like that? So this is the priest of Crom. We don't get Crom in the flesh, which I was a little disappointed by. That would have been kind of cool to see a war god like Ares or Zeus or, Apollo or Mars. But we just get this St. Patrick, green Irish priest, who encased Shumagorth in the mountain where it's been trapped ever since until Hob released it. More by coincidence and convenience than anything else. He just happened to be there with the books. Conan, now they have the books, and Conan's like, okay, we're going to do this. It's a pretty good drawing of Conan, although it's not really a moment that needs the flayed hand, I guess. Here's Shumagorth wreaking havoc on the land, and Vamatar and Kulan Gath are trying to use their chance to enslave it, but they don't have the books, so what do they know? And Conan and those guys start using the books to, what do? Conan carries them up to the top of the mountain because he can't read the books either, so he's just going to use them as a talisman. And he literally throws them into the storm off the peak of the mountain, doesn't pray to Crom, but that energy and his faith apparently are enough to work the miracle and the destruction of Shumagorth, because it had to end somehow. And whatever he tried with one page left, it's going to work, because there's only one page left. Now Yamatov earned his money on this explosion. Although you could say that that's really easy to do and probably took him 10 minutes. In Photoshop, that wouldn't take very long. But it's still good. I don't mind. Here, these guys have a little catch-up. I don't even remember what they said. It wasn't significant. But Conan does congratulate Sean. He gets to tell him to go home. They're both Snow Tribe. Conan is the son of Corin of the Snow Tribe, tribe of Samaria. And so that is the end of this series with Shumagorth and Kulan Gath and Vamatar. And I don't even know what happened to them, if they got caught up in the explosion. So there's a bit where Hob and Ron suggest that maybe Crom summoned Conan to the peak, and Conan was Crom's instrument, as the priest was last time. But Kuban Goth and Vomitar are not mentioned. There was an explosion, and they are not mentioned again. Their names are not included again. So what happened to them? I don't know. We only have 275 issues, and I am going to fill in the gaps. That's not quite 1,000 of these episodes. I need to do 1,000 of these before I will have an audience built to sell my stuff to you guys, which is really the reason I'm here. These are extended commercials for my comics, at my audiobooks, novels, and this one comic that you can read for free. But I am working on new stuff. I flatted one of the angels today. This is Legacy of the Mad Scientist, Legend of Ashley Fox. There is something I want to talk about in sort of conclusion or in addition to yesterday's continuing conversation about deadlines. It is absolutely important to meet deadlines. Once you're in the contract, you have to fulfill the contract. But that said, and I'm certainly no stranger to hard work and believing in giving yourself to the work and working 20 hours a day and six days a week, 7 days a week. This is the Greg Capullo controversy over Wolverine that I'm talking about. Here's the part where I stray from what they are talking. Well, there's 2 points I want to make. One is that you absolutely have to be capable of doing that. You have to be capable of doing that. I remember pulling all-nighters at school, at animation school, and thinking to myself, it doesn't get easier after this. This is training for what you're going to have to do when you get out there making movies, doing TV shows, doing blah, blah, blah. I'd already been through the Marine Corps, so I had a good sense of how to work hard. I'd always been working out or in the martial arts or something like that. So that's one thing. You have to be capable of doing that. You have to be able to pour it on when the time is right. You cannot, if you pour it on for years in a row, it will destroy the rest of your life. You can be addicted to work the same way you can be addicted to drugs or anything else in this world, gambling. If you go too much into any one thing, everything else in your life will suffer through neglect. That's just how the world works. So that said, there is something for pouring it on for brief periods of time. I think this Wolverine series is only 6 issues. Did this guy quit after issue 4 or 5? Because I think I've digitally downloaded a few of them. I haven't read any of them yet, but I was curious to look at it because Greg's been posting social media online, and his art is incredible. He's really good. So the other side of this, though, that I want to talk about is how do these great artists and really professional people get trapped in these awful contracts? Who's doing that to them? Is this why Image happened? Blah, blah, blah. And here's the answer to that. The answer is distribution deals. So it's especially prevalent in television and film. They've got a lot more money riding on the line than a single artist and some weekends. Granted, it may be years of weekends that he's dedicated to a single series, but if you have someone who produced 6 issues on their own and they're looking to sell that to an independent or even one of the main comic book companies, first off, if they've produced 6 issues of Wolverine, they can't sell that anywhere else. Marvel can give them the absolute lowest. They could buy it for $1, and it would still be a deal for the artist, because he would now have published art. The problem is, look at that. They have all the bargaining power. If you go and do 6 issues of their character, that's not a smart move. If you go and do 6 issues of your own thing, and you bring it to one of these big companies to publish it for you, they are going to give you a fraction of what they would pay if they were commissioning the work from the beginning. A fraction. Because all the risk's been taken. And it's not gold. As much as you might think it is, it's not. What it is a gap in their production schedule. You now fill a gap in their upcoming production schedule. And you may fill a gap 6 months out. Because solicitations still take, Diamond, from what I understand, prints 3 months ahead of time. And that means they want all their ads in line Now, granted, this is a different world now. We're talking about a world that's had digital comics for over a decade. So knowing that, you're in an even more precarious situation. Look at the people who do a series of television or a film, right? If you have that in the can, it used to be you do not start rolling the cameras until the distribution deal is in place. Because look at that, commits everyone. Everyone's committed. Marketing's committed, advertising, that's a big part of the whole job. And if they know something's coming down the line, they can work toward it. Everyone invests in the final product knowing they get their share, their fair share. If you go and complete the project without them investing ahead of time, people should be more confident they're going to get their fair share, but for some reason, the human mind shuts off. It doesn't work that way. The human mind does not invest that way, and this is where we come back to nerds doing gambling with superheroes, right? If you show up with 6 issues of a new character complete, somehow the shine does not quite, it's not there the same way it would be if the studio actually produced it. If you show up at a studio with 6 episodes of a TV show done, they don't have to pay you anything because you are desperate to get that on the air. Because theoretically, you've been to everyone in town. Theoretically, you're a known quantity. Most of the time, people are. It's very rare that an unknown quantity, shows up with 6 issues of a hot title that's actually going to work. That almost never happens. Think about what it would take. It wouldn't take that much to arrange it for artists like Greg Capullo to finish all 6 issues before all this drama happens. You don't have to. He is a known quantity. So that distribution deal should sell itself. He shouldn't get stuck. For a comic book, there's no reason he should get stuck working 16 hours a day to meet a deadline. If that happened, someone sabotaged him. That's most likely. The other thing is, to me, it doesn't make sense. To me, you should have an arc complete before any money changes hands. To me, that's the way that makes the most sense. And that's the way I'm doing it. That's the way I prefer. I write the book before I sell the book. A lot of writers don't do that. A lot of writers sell on a pitch. I write the book and then I try and sell it. And if I can't sell it, that's so what? Selling the work is not what's important to me. Doing the work and making the work be good is what's important to me. That may be putting the cart before the horse. I'm literally not following my own advice. I don't have a distribution deal in place. Maybe that is literally putting the cart before the horse. But it seems to me this is how artists end up with no soul. They sell out before. Look, you're selling the work before it's done. If you sell the work before it's done, how can you claim to have artistic integrity? I don't know. It's a conundrum. Maybe it'll never be solved. Maybe the Marvel method is the way to do it. You let the artists draw whatever they want, and then you just, as a writer, come in and piss on it and put it on the stands, and if they buy it, they buy it. Youngblood sold. I think that's the one where I've complained before, where they didn't even have the enemy. The whole first issue is a battle, and you don't see the enemy. So, I get things wrong all the time. Maybe I'm doing this wrong, but I'm happy. And that's really what this is all about. The reason I'm doing this, not these little videos, but the reason I'm in comics, the reason I'm in fiction at all is because fiction saved my life. Fiction made life for me worth living. This is where I found the fun, the gold. For some people, it's watching sports. For some people, it's watching golf or NASCAR or dramas, or it's in their culture. They're in their religion, they're in their whatever. For me, it's fiction, whether it's written or illustrated. There was something I wanted to say about this issue of Conan, the magic involved, and that it seems that there's always magic involved. And there's a few things. One, I was disappointed by the Irish priest back here, who reputedly, sorry, it's going to take me a second to find it. I was just right. I had to be close to it. So this guy, I was a little disappointed that it was St. Patrick that stopped Shumagorth the first time and not some iteration of the Tuatha De Danann or Crom himself, the Celtic god. I'm Irish-German, so I have a soft spot for that stuff. And I was also disappointed in the end, in the writing, in that it's hard to solve magic stuff because it's nonsense, right? So I've only read a few instances where magic is handled well in the narrative. I read the Harry Potter stuff. Magic in that is a culture. It's a backdrop, not a device, not a plot device. In this, it's a plot device. And in this, my main problems were, one, that Kulan Gath and Vamatar were able to have some influence over Shumagorth, or maybe they weren't, maybe what happens is they're utterly destroyed, except, you know what, it turns out Shumagorth kills them, and in killing them, that's the moment that Conan needs to get over the peak. He takes the books and throws them into the tempest at the top of the mountain, so that's a weird ending, right? Like, Shumagorth it didn't eat them, but it did electric blast them. It did like energy blast them. I guess this is the panel right here where they die. And then we get a broken bottle down at the end. But now that means that for this minute, I guess that's what's happening while Conan is running around across behind Shumagorth and up to the top of the mountain on this page. So that's kind of a, it's a little bit of the scene and the setting, and it's if this had been set in a ruined temple at the peak of the mountain, it would have been a little more, how do I phrase this, compact, a little more closed off, a little more secure. But because it's just on the mountainside, it's a little bit easier and a little bit harder for Roy Thomas and the artist to solve it, in that Conan just sort of runs up the peak in the background and then throws the books. It's hard to get magic right. There is a Conan story that we will get to. Savage Sword of Conan, number 157, by Don Krar, written by Don Krar, illustrated by Pat Redding, and Dale Eaglesham does the inks. And that story is amazing. I think that's the only time this team ever worked together. I did look up Don Krar a little bit ago, and he does have a bunch of other Conan titles to his credit, various comics. They look like they're all comics. And it looks like he's only written for Conan. He hasn't written any other characters. Apparently on Goodreads, that's not a very trusted biography. It's just what people add. So, in that one, The Wrath of Crom, the way the magic is handled, first off, the way the magic is handled is great, and second off, the way it's handled in the narrative is great. Those two things, to get those two things together is not easy to get off. Like, I guess the main guy from the 60s and 70s, Thomas Sheridan is always talking about him. He did The Devil Rides Out, and I'm spacing on him right now, but he is a very good magical narrative writer. Most writers just use it as energy, sort of the way they did here with Doctor Strange, like lightning bolts or whatever. So this is science fiction, and again, the distribution deal. So I am looking to write my own distribution deals because I feel like the traditional distribution systems have been broken since the 80s or 90s. Diamond always seemed unfair. Diamond always seemed exploitative. Marvel and DC always seemed exploitative. Image had great intentions, but I don't think it necessarily worked out perfectly. I think we just had a mini earthquake. So I want to put together. Now, I don't want to be Eric July. I don't want to get into shipping. But in terms of distribution, I don't want to confront it until I have a stack of stuff And honestly, that's what this is. This right here is me looking to build my audience and sidestep all the distribution, all the middlemen, and come directly to you guys. And so whereas other writers and artists had to write other characters to do that, I guess we're going to do like an education thing. I'm exploiting YouTube to promote these stories. And I'm going to keep doing it until they kick me off. So, yeah, everything's in the description. See you guys tomorrow.